16. Descent.
Mm-hmm.
And initial thought, holy crap, that was an awesome episode. From start to finish, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, I thought this was a
Now, this was really a touchstone episode, much more so than Reckoning.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good episode, too. I thought it was the best of the season.
Oh, yeah. And for me, I think this was, like, one of the best episodes of the series. I mean, this really was, like, this really moved the series forward.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that Jonathan Kent's death, affected the series.
I think this goes way beyond that.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, yeah.
It's probably, like, the most influential episode since, like, the first episode.
Yeah. The episode where Lex finally truly became the villain of the story.
Oh God! Stop using that. That's like such a tired line that they keep using in the promo spots. I'm glad they didn't use that in the episode.
Well, that was only in the trailers,
but yeah,
but it was the famous. But that was the famous line of that episode. I mean, of Onyx.
Yeah, but I agree. Finally, he
becomes Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
And we should start with the teaser. I mean, the opening scene. But well, it pretty much picks up where Veritas left off. I mean,
No, I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, it picks up where Veritas left off. I mean, Lionel drives up to the Luthor Corp building and...
Oh, spoilers, but...
Well, as I was saying, he shows up in his office and... Well, first time watching it. Since last time we talked about, the new episodes, like, where are they gonna, come back, in full force,
And they did.
And they did.
Well, no, I'm not gonna say they did. I'm gonna say this episode...
This episode, like,
This episode
I think it regenerated my faith in the show.
I'm not gonna go out on that far limb, but I'm gonna say it's gotten me to the point where I'll still put something into the series. I had said last episode or part 1 how if this had been a sucky episode, I would quit the series.
Yeah.
But luckily it didn't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you flat out why. It's because Michael Rosenbaum was the main character.
Yeah.
Because he could pull off the acting.
I think this is probably the best Lex-centric episode of all. I mean, I need to beat the other ones.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. It's better than all the other ones, including the one where you go into Lex's head.
Hit Fracture.
Yeah, this is so much better. And he finally kills that annoying redheaded kid.
He finally kills the good part of himself.
Thank
God. Literally, he does it.
Kid was so annoying.
Well, he wasn't annoying in Fracture.
I killed Dad. Come here, and he grabs him by the curly hair and throws him into the fireplace. Throws him in the fireplace.
I'm done listening to you.
Shut up, kid.
Well, anyway, going back on topic with the teaser, as I was saying, the first time I was watching the scene where Lionel walks into his office, all of a sudden the color changes. Where Lionel's office is usually a blue lit, but all of a sudden it turned black and white. I'm like, oh no. Because I thought
you thought it was a dream.
Like, oh no, it just like.
If it was a dream, I would. I
know. I thought it was. I thought it was supposed to be like a subtle thing to show you like it wasn't real. I'm like, oh no. But then as the episode went on after the teaser, and then when the episode started to go on, I'm like, oh yes, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Lex steps out of the shadows and makes probably their last father-son like lecture of literature of Arthur having fear of taking the sword out of the stone. And then Lex goes on and says, the factory was just a cover up for what he was really there in Smallville for, which connected to Veritas and the Traveler and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And Lex has his dad by the collar, demanding to know who it is.
Mm-hmm. And Lionel, he knows.
Yeah, and Lionel tries to lie and say like, "Oh, you are the Traveler. I mean, you survived many encounters with death." And he said, "Well, you brought this on me, Dad," and pulls a gun up to his, to his face, and he shoots, but Lionel, like, dodges it. And, like,
no, he shoots the glass.
Shoots the glass. But, well, I know, I'm just saying, but Lionel, like, kind of, like...
Yeah, well, you would, too. You flinched.
Well, yeah, you flinched, yeah.
Because Lex wanted to kill him with his own hands.
Yeah. And Lionel basically says, I can't let you go down the path. If you get the box in Zurich, it will destroy you. And Lex says, it's going to hold the keys. All my questions will be answered. And then he says the line that, that was in the trailer, raising your shadow, now you're going to die in mine. But the line that really got my attention was when he said, nobody will remember your name. Lets him go and falls how many stories. And like the shot before like the opening credits is like a close up of Lex's eye, and you see the reflection of Lionel
that was
falling,
nice.
and then he blinks, and then it's gone. So I'm like, yeah,
that was nice.
yeah, that was a really good teaser. I was surprised that they did the death so early. I thought it was going to be at the end.
Oh, I'm glad it was kind of.
No, I was just like, like, oh,
it's like, why drag it out anymore?
Yeah, yeah, that was good. And well, after the teaser and then the opening scene, it was like, I mean, everybody in the Daily Planet, Chloe, Jimmy, Clark,
yeah, all the buzz.
Everybody like runs out of the planet to the LuthCorp building across the street, like really, and the music, like, yeah, the music in this episode was really good. It really drew me in. I mean, especially with that outside shot of the Daily Planet as it pans down and everybody starts running outward. Yeah. And then Lex, talks to the Metropolis PD, and comes up with a fake thing. I heard him scream, and like, trying to cover his ass. And it truly felt like it confirmed that Lionel was dead was when the female cop or whatever pulled the sheet off, and you saw like the close up of his bloodshot eye. So,
yeah, he looks messed up.
Yeah, I mean they didn't have to show it; they just showed it in a close up of his eye, and like, oh, that's confirmed.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, and then Lex being distraught by what just happened. Alexander shows up.
The last break.
And then the episode, Lex tries to ignore him, like saying "get out of my head" and all that. And Clark is pretty shocked by it, despite being hothead in the previous episode. But Chloe just brought back those despite her statement that she said, saying like, what does a key got to do with the suicide? And everybody just starts to assume that's suicide. It just kind of brought back all this stuff that we didn't like in the previous episodes.
What are you talking about?
Everybody, how it was convenient that everybody was angry and nobody listened to Lionel.
And you're saying it's convenient.
And just because Chloe said that just.
And you're saying it's convenient it was a suicide?
They just naturally assumed, but like Chloe, just through her comment, like brought back all that stuff that we disliked.
That didn't really bother me.
No.
Because in the end, they all ended up discovering that it wasn't.
Well, yeah. And
Jimmy, Lois, and
Chloe.
Jimmy
and Lois,
Jimmy, Lois, and Chloe all discovered that it wasn't.
Like,
but
conveniently, Jimmy, took a picture of Lois, and I don't know. Just throughout this episode, come on, it's obvious Jimmy has a semi-crush on Lois.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
that's
not
true, but
yeah, it's not blatant, but it's like obvious. Especially when they were in the freezer, and it's like, oh, we're gonna make it big, Lois, even though we're freezing to death.
Yeah.
But after Chloe made that remark, the rest of the episode she was pretty proactive. And Lionel entrusted the key to give it to Clark, but
I loved how Lex found the key and it wasn't like
there was no.
I wonder where she hid it.
There's none of that.
He did see her and put it in the drawer.
He just automatically opened the drawer,
he did
took
see
the
her
key out,
hide it.
and he's like, "You're fired."
I thought he was gonna kill her. That would have made the episode even better. But then I think Clark would have killed him.
Well, and in this episode, it kind of had the reason why Lois and Jimmy were involved in those previous episodes. I mean, they obviously found the proof that Lex was the one that killed Lionel, but ultimately the evidence is destroyed
by the Baroness.
I guess you could say that.
The henchman does look like her.
Yeah.
Except like an older version of her.
Yeah. And also, you brought up, why didn't Clark hear her?
Yeah, she's hiding in the room when he revealed his powers. How come he didn't hear her heartbeat or anything? But Dad brought up a good point. He said that he has to focus.
He's not really paying. He's talking to Chloe.
He's not he's not on mission because later on he has to focus on Jimmy's voice.
Well, yeah.
In order to hear him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a thing you turn on and off.
Yeah, it's not something that catches up when a noise goes off in the back. Right?
Yeah, he's not always aware.
Yeah. Well, we saw a bit of Chloe Watchtower, operating the ISIS computers, and oh yeah, that's Watchtower. Yeah. It was just cool to see that, and obviously it's going to be in more episodes, from the trailer for the next new episodes.